water, a basic thing that covers 3/4 of our planet. But how do we create it in an N-scale module, or any module for that matter? We're going to go over that right now. Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to go over how I made the water for my N-scale modules and how you can apply this to virtually any scale, be it HO, N, or whatever. The techniques are universal, okay? So we've used a product today, the star of the show, if you will, is going to be this. It's made by AK Interactive, okay, and I'll link it in the description. It's their water gel, and like I said, this is what's going to make the scene pop, okay? We have another product that we're going to bring along here from Woodland Scenics that is like the supporting role, if you will. But this is what's going to make our layout actually look like something, you know, that's water. It looks deep, but it's millimeters, if that, like maybe 1 or 2 millimeters thick, as opposed to going through the old school where you're using a 2-part epoxy resin. You have to go and mix that in a cup, and it has fumes, it's messy, and you have to basically waterproof whatever it is you're doing, so that it can, because it's a liquid, okay, it's going to lay somewhere and it has to dry a cure for 24 hours or more, depending on how deep you pour it. And then you have to go through and worry about bubbles, and you're using a blowtorch to get all the bubbles out and not light your layout on fire when you're doing it. So there's a lot of cons, I would think, to using the old methods. And when I discovered this, quite by accident one day, you know me and eBay. If you've seen any of my other videos, I'm an eBay-aholic, I guess. But I'll tell you what, you can find a lot of interesting stuff that you never see anywhere else, because everybody dumps their stuff on eBay, okay, whether it's sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But this company chose, I mean, I haven't researched. I'm sure there is a website, and I'll have to look it up, and if I do find it, I will link their actual website. But like I said, you can find this stuff. Just do a search on eBay or even on Amazon if you don't like eBay. I believe they're on Amazon too by different people. And you can find all their products basically listed in both places. So without further ado, so this is going to be what we're going to use as a test piece, okay, for demonstration purposes. This is just, as you can see, just an ordinary piece of cardboard. And this is going to represent our working surface, okay. Now at the top you saw the module that I created. It's highlighted in another video. But the methods I used are going to be exactly the same, okay. So that's obviously on a piece of wood, okay. There's nothing underneath it, it's just wood. But the only difference that I will do here that I did there is when I built the module, okay, I spray painted the whole thing a base color of gray, okay, a primer gray. Just a rattle can, you know, that you get at any hardware store, or even Walmart, I think, still sells them. I'm not sure. But any kind of primer gray, don't have to be anything fancy. Just enough that it seals the wood, okay. That's the big thing, because when you do that primer gray, it makes any other colors pop, okay. So that's how we're going to do this. So I went ahead and I pre-painted. Now this is the colors that I use. I just use basic watercolors. Now I did the same. This is the same material that I used on that module. Okay, and any of my water that you see, I have three as of right now. When I'm recording this, right now I have three modules that are have a water feature on it. Plus, I did one for a uh, a train club that I belong to, and it was a corner module, and I did a little raised hill. And at the top of it was a depressed area that I made a pond. Okay, and I used some of this. Now, when you do this, okay, so this is strictly this color. There's nothing else added to it. It's this just painted, okay, and it's painted with that blue. And how you go with your brush strokes matters, okay. So like if you're going, let's say this is our ocean, okay, or what body of water, or whatever you want to say, and if you go towards the shore, that's how the water is naturally going to flow. Okay, so if I was building that same module over again, the way I do it is you do the land feature first. That is the uh, like the water is going towards the bridge, so I want the water to flow towards the bridge. And the shoreline was back in here somewhere. So what I did is I took the color. Well, first I built out the sides, okay, which was uh, like the sides of the inlet, okay. So take the color, which was sand in that case, and it was like a beige, and I ran the brush strokes this way towards the water, and then once I was satisfied with the coverage, I went ahead with my sand and the actual sand. I poured the sand over the top of it, dumped it off several, ran process several times, um, using glue and water to hold it in place. And then when I was satisfied with how that turned out and let it dry, obviously a day or two, then I came back for the water. Now what the water's going to do is naturally it's going to go up over the sand, okay, at your shoreline. I mean, you think about it, you've got waves that come in and go out. So it's naturally going to come over top of whatever you have back here. So you want to simulate that by doing your water second. So, and like I said, your brush strokes, you want to overlap, and as you overlap, you're going to naturally fade into the sand or the shoreline. So uh, that's how that one goes. So how do we go and use this water gel? Okay, so we're going to open this up. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Okay, it's a very, very blue paste. Okay, and I tried this. The first time I used it, I thought, oh, well, this is just going to cover it and it's going to look great. Well, you need something underneath. And that's when I learned, okay, got to have the base color. That's when I came up with this. Now, how you vary the depth, okay, it's how dark you make this, okay. Now, I've had it where I've had a black streak, that's to simulate deeper water. Um, if you want to, you could go and you want to simulate a muddy surface or whatever, you would go ahead and put some browns in it, blend it a little bit. But in this case, we're just going to go with that. So what you do is you come with this, and it's, like I don't want to say a paste, but it's paint. It's just a different form of paint. So you would go over it, And we're just going to do a little bit here to spread it out. And this washes out with just plain water. And that's what I like about it. It's similar to the acrylics, okay? I didn't look to see. I'm guessing it's basically the same kind of paint because it is a paint, but it's kind of in that in-between state where it's, you know, the gel, and it really spreads evenly and nicely, as you can see here. Now, if I want to go this way with it, and like I said, you're gonna grab a toothpick. Okay, don't want to get my hands a wreck here. Okay, so and you see there's a buildup on here, so I'm just going to use that buildup. I mean, you don't need a lot. I mean, to get this effect, and it's really easy. It goes on pretty easy. I mean, it's just moving around here because it's so small. But as you can see, it goes on pretty easy, and it covers fairly well. I mean, you just got to work it in fairly small areas. I don't take a lot. I mean, and you can use whatever brush you want. If you feel I don't want to risk a decent brush, which is this is from a dollar store, but it was part of a set, and I mean I take care of them. You know, you'll see this in a minute. It's just I won't lose any sleep if I ruin it, but by the same token, I can take care of this, and it'll last me a while. But as you can see here, we're just going over it, and you know, as it dries, if you see you're not getting the coverage you want, you just go back over it, you know, with a little bit more, or you want to vary how things look or whatever. That's how you go. Now I'm going to take off some of the excess here, because now I'm going to come through here and do this. Okay? So, and that's all there is to that. So now we're going to take, I should have grabbed this earlier with something else. Yeah, let's see if I can pry this up here. Okay. Be careful with it. Okay, put that over there. Okay, so that's that part. Now you would let that dry for a day at a minimum, which I know puts a damper on things. But hey, you know, it's just got to sit. So when you do it initially, I would definitely on your first coat, let it sit for a day, and then come back to it and look at it and see how it turns out. Now, I've done a few pieces here in advance so that we can keep this video moving and not have to stop. So here is what it looks like after it's dried. Okay, same techniques, just paint the bottom part blue, and then went over it with the AK Interactive Water Gel. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Let's see if I can get a better picture. Okay, so right there. So now that looks decent, okay? And you can see there's natural ridges that form no matter which way you go. Now that's why the brush strokes are important. So now we want to simulate the white caps, like, because you have an ocean. I mean, any body of water that you have, you're going to have some kind of white caps. Some are more pronounced than others. If you have a river, sometimes you have rocks in it that, you know, create all kinds of things, and, you know, rapids, whatever. But what we're showing today is how I did the ocean coming in. So what you would want to do at that point, and I'm getting this ready here because it likes to, okay, let's see, okay. Now what I have here to get the to do the white caps is this product here. It's made by Woodland Scenics. It's called Water Effects. Now if you want to, now this is pretty glossy, okay, the way it is. You can add an effect from Woodland Scenics. It's called realistic water. And what that is something that's a lot more liquidy than this paste that I put on here. But it will puddle a lot easier than trying to go and use the two-part epoxy thing. The two-part epoxy thing runs, I mean, it will seek out, I mean, they're both going to seek out a level, but you don't have to worry so much about the damming. And you could take a brush, and go over that with, spread that out a little bit to give it a little more of a gloss look to it. But I think this is pretty good the way it is. So what I do at that point is you come in with this and you squeeze it out. I'm just going to do one row. And it comes out like this. Now, that isn't too bad. I mean, it's like using caulking, okay? You can get real good at it, and just spread out a really nice thin line. But let's face it, that's not nature, okay? So what I would do at this point, okay, while it's still, pliable, and it looks a lot like caulking and toothpaste, is you just come and look for your ridge line, okay? Now you're going to want, if the water is coming in this way, you're going to have your peak on this side, and then it's going to fan out to the back. So what I would do is come in roughly halfway-ish, depending on how much of a peak I wanted, and then just feather it back. Okay, and then I'm just gonna get some of this excess off. Okay, so we're gonna feather it back a little bit, and it's really, like I said, it's really easy to work with. And if you don't like how it turns out, you take a rag and you wipe it off. Okay, and you start over. And that's what's nice about this stuff. I mean, it cleans up pretty well, and this works the same way. We'll clean up with just plain water. Like when I'm done with this video, I'm going to take this and I'm just going to wash it out, and it'll be just fine. You'll never know I used it. But that's what it would look like. I'll turn it around here so you can see this way. So if you look at it, that looks like a wave that's rushing in. Now, my only gripe with this from Woodland Scenics is when I did it initially, I was ecstatic. I mean, it looked fantastic. The first time I tried it, I was like, oh, this is going to be over the top. I took pictures. I put it, put the pictures on Facebook and all over the place. And then it dried. And when it dried, I was a little disappointed. So this is what it looks like wet. And like I said, it looks fantastic. Well, so here's what it looks like after it dries. Now there are two rows here. There's a row here and there's a row here. And I'm not sure if the camera is picking this up very well. I hope it is. But you could see the ridge, but you can't see much of anything else. The water, I feathered it back this way, but you can't really see it. And this is what happened on my first attempt with using it, and I tell you, I just sunk. I was like, oh my God, this stuff is crap. Well, after looking at it, figuring it out, I figured that I needed to use some of this. Okay, so this is just another brand, but it's just white acrylic paint. Okay, so I'm gonna shake this up a little bit and cap on that. And this is my artist palette, okay? So I just get a little bit of this white paint on here. Okay, I use this all the time for stuff like that. Just a scrap piece of cardboard. So now what am I going to do is we want to highlight this, okay? So I just get on here with my paint, and I'm sorry that my hand gets in the way here. We're just going to go along the ridge, okay, that we created. And don't need a whole lot, that's why I'm just dabbing it a little bit, okay? And what this is going to do, it's going to bring out the top and a little bit of the front so that, we know that this is a wave that's coming in. So we just come along here, give that a little more. Okay. And when you're satisfied that you think you have enough paint, and like I said, this is acrylic, this stuff washes right off if you need to. Just take a rag, a paper towel, whatever, and you'll use it for that. Now I just took all the excess off here, and we're going to dry brush. Dry brush is a technique used for, streaking, making things like that. I use a lot of that technique in weathering a lot. When it comes to making buildings look older or used or whatever. So what we're going to do now that I have this, it doesn't matter that there's some paint on there or whatever, it's fine, it's all going to mix together anyway. Do the same technique that we used for putting the water effect on, about halfway ish. Just come down and start spreading this out, okay? And you can vary it how far, and then let's take some of this excess off here. So you want it to fade out as it goes back. And you can see this is already starting to look like something. Okay, so we're going to do the same to the bottom wave. I don't have to go too far up on it. A little section I missed there. And really, I mean, if you didn't want to take any of that excess paint off of the brush, you could have just kept on going with it. And it will fade out on its own. But you can see now, the more I tease it out, the better it looks. And you can actually see, and this is where I was telling you about the movement of the water going forward. You could see it being highlighted now with this, and this is going to dry just like you see it. So there's no disappointments in that or anything. Now if you wanted to, like on the front here, if you wanted to make this more pronounced, you could, using the dab technique, but it's something, especially a wave this small, you're going to need to be real precise. So I wouldn't do it. I would try at my best to get it as much as possible on the first try. But overall, I think that turned out pretty good. And so here is an example of how I finished it. So this is another one that I did. So you see, here's the wave, and here is where it feathers back. Now, and this is just, like I said, this is just on a piece of cardboard with a little bit of blue acrylic paint. And overall, I think that turned out great. I mean, if I had a section of a layout that I needed this for, that would fit in perfectly. Just trim it to fit and you're done. But that's it. I mean, it's fairly simple, very easy to use, and I don't get a plug for either of these people. these companies. I don't get anything from Woodland Scenics or AK Interactive. I'm not a sponsor of this show. This is what they are. And I just wanted to share this technique with you today. I know there's a lot of interest in those modules that I released to have the water on it, but that's it. So I appreciate you tuning in and sticking around for me. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions about the technique or where to go to get any of this product. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.